Welcome. I'm here with Henry, M&A entrepreneur from USA. We knew each other for quite a long time, some years now. And Henry is a great example of an entrepreneur going from 0 deals to now. How many deals have you made, Henry?
We've completed 2 acquisitions and a couple more this year.
So it's the third one you're looking at now, right?
That is correct.
Excellent. So I have some questions for you, but first, maybe you just want to elaborate a little bit about Finer Days Healthcare, and now you have more companies in your portfolio, in your roll-up, M&A roll-up.
Definitely, I think that's a great place to start with that element. I'm from Kentucky. Do a little backstory on that as to why Finer Days exists, and then that ties into why we do our deals and how we do them. So I originally did come out of technology and engineering before getting into healthcare. Found a passion because I had someone who couldn't get access in a timely manner. And so I started looking at understanding why this issue happened. Was it technology? Was it human driven? Was it a combination of both, or was it regulatory? And started trying to find a solution. And so that's where I got my step into healthcare.
There was a personal story behind it. You have a personal history of things not working as you would like it to work.
Yes, that is the direct reason. Broken system, if we're being honest. I think anyone in the United States or world, for that matter, can look at it and probably see that.
Yeah, we have our issues here in Sweden. So how did you go from the first acquisition to structuring a full roll-up strategy? Was it momentum driven or was it mapped from day one, planned out?
A mixture of mapped and momentum driven. We know anyone, for that matter, you as well, understand that you can have the best map plan in the world, but the second you step into the real world, you might as well just wing it, because your mapped plan, while a good goal, never goes smoothly. So we started with a mapped goal, get the first acquisition done, then look at a relatively quick bolt-on that just complements the first one. And then once we have that foundational aspect built, then start actively looking for additional platforms or bolt-ons to our existing operation. So it is a strategy based on the original plan that we had.
Got it. As you're raising capital, is it deal by deal, or are you building a centralized structure like a special purpose vehicle or holdco or fund style, or for faster execution? What's the strategy there?
So what we're doing is a mixture of, we're raising capital by deal when it comes to it. With how we structure our acquisitions, it's really easy to get commercial financing and then a mixture of sellers' equity for that. So we don't really need to do a special purpose vehicle. We do have a holding company. Finer Days is the holding company. It exists to hold the entities we acquire. And while it may not acquire every entity because of those bolt-ons, it is our main operational holding company. It allows us to raise that capital.
Got it. So it's a lot of seller finance or delayed consideration, as they say in the UK, and that should be normal in the healthcare sector, right? You're taking on a risk, and you're the entrepreneur, you're driving it, and you're developing it. And there's an upside there also for the individuals that chooses, if they would choose to keep any shares, right? They can see a huge upside with M&A strategy that they didn't have before.
Definitely. Yeah, there's so much opportunity using seller financing. I like to refer to the seller's equity in acquisition structures for the seller, for that matter, whether they're retaining equity in the operating company after acquisition or just looking long-term wise at tax benefits with just that delayed payment.
In terms of the investors, I know you raised capital before. Like, what does your investor base look like? Is it a strategic, financial, or operational aligned, or do you have like a group of investors that you are in talks with regularly, or how do you do it?
We raised through a strategic investor with the first acquisition, had to build that footprint, get it done basically. So we leveraged a single strategic investor. He's a minority partner in the holding company, gives us input, good connections, but we really don't have a large investor base because I always look towards commercial financing as a better debt-driven structure than an equity structure.
So would that include what's it called in USA? It's called SPV? SPA, yeah?
Yeah. So that does include leveraging the SBA. Depending how you read the latest operating procedure, we're either included or not included. So we're really focusing on those commercial lending relationships now instead of the Small Business Administration.
So what's the benefits of doing the banks directly or commercial? I guess there's some benefits compared to the SBA loan.
Far quicker, far less regulations. With the SBA loan, you're also capped to a certain amount before you get forced into the commercial realm anyway. And so, especially again with that latest regulation that rolled out June 1st, get a lot tighter as well, both initial and expansions. So it's a whole lot easier to look on the commercial side. They move quicker, it's simpler. They also really like sellers' equity as an injection. So it helps us move faster overall.
So talking about regulations or regulatory, as you scale, what is the biggest bottlenecks? Is it sourcing, capital integration, or regulatory, or something else?
It is a capital type. It's human capital. It's finding quality people who understand and are focused on the mission to go out and make a difference, and they want to be involved. And so those are the two real bottlenecks when it comes to it. Because if you have enough people, it's pretty easy to grow. I mean, it's easy to find potential acquisitions. Capital's easy, but it's finding the right people.
Yeah, it's always a hustle to find the right people. I made an exit before. I'm kind of restructuring a company right now, and there's always the issue of getting new key hires. I guess is that something you have in your model also? When you acquire a company, do you hire more people, or what's kind of the strategy for the organic growth?
So when we acquire a company and start looking at organic growth, and while I can speak to it a little bit, my operating officer speaks to it more. He's really for spearheading that project. We take a employee first approach, because if you take care of your employees by investing in their growth, investing in this case, their pay, a lot of healthcare is underpaid just due to not increasing pay rates tied to reimbursement. You can see a truly snowball effect with momentum when it comes to the quality of care that people get with healthcare. Taking care of your people starts first, and then we pair that with a very broad spectrum digital presence, digital campaign. We have the technology these days. We're required to use it for federal compliance as it is. We might as well leverage and use what we have to its fullest extent, just to make everyone's life and job easier.
Yeah, I mean, and you have like a whole board of director, or you have is it non-executives, or is it the advisory board also, or do you take acquisition targets? Are they involved, or in some manner, or like how do you structure that?
So we have an advisory board, non-executive advisory board. When it comes to it, what I realized really early on is in healthcare, you have to do it right, because the system is so broken. If you do it wrong, you can cause major problems and also cause a bad rap on people that aren't needed, people don't know they need. So we wanted to do it right. So we pulled together a team of truly seasoned executives across the healthcare space, financial, legal, industry experts as well, to make sure anything we did went went smoothly and went well.
Yeah, it's almost like a rhyme there, right?
Something like that.
What do you enjoy about this industry? What is it you like? I mean, both the healthcare industry, of course, and also the M&A industry. It's two different.
On the healthcare side, I love that every day I can open our EVV system at the end of the day, the electronic visit verification, and I can see how many people we help today. Whether it's employees, whether it's clients we transported, or clients that we're providing home care to. Every day we make a difference. That's part of why we're called Finder Days. We're striving for a Finder Day every day. And that starts by actually focusing on helping people. I love mergers and acquisitions. There is just something about getting to meet all of these different business owners, see all the different things they do, travel and see their businesses. I've been to some locations I never thought I'd get to in my life, looking at business opportunities. There's just something about that that's magnificent.
I saw your background there. It looks oriental, like Tokyo. Do you have global expansion ideas also?
Maybe down the line. We're focused on national right now, specifically on like the Southeast and or Central United States part. That's our big focus first before we would consider national. We're going to make sure we're stable enough before we go tangle with a whole different country's healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, it's 51 states, so it's quite big there in USA.
There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and you use commercial financing and sellers' equity to stay nimble. Have you ever considered bringing in structured equity capital to accelerate? Would that compromise your control or speed?
It's something we've considered, and we'll probably look at heavily down the line once we reach a certain size. Just you hit it on the head. Basically, we have to take into consideration is a mixture of control, but also speed. Just because you can get a bunch of equity capital to throw out doesn't mean it's worthwhile, because if you have to watch a shift with that from structure follows strategy to strategy follows structure, you're not going to be nimble enough to expand rapidly, jump on those opportunities when they come through the door. So that very much does matter. Now down the line, it's something to consider.
Yeah, if it would happen, like, well, if you look like beyond your third acquisition, what would a strategic capital partner need to bring beyond just money? Because maybe there's other values to be added to Fine Days that you don't need right now. But like in the end, it's almost like a beauty competition. Like they need to provide something to be a part of this success, right?
What we would look for, to answer your question, yes, capital is part of it, but it's that relationship aspect of it. You know, we add value to people's days. What value do you add value to people's days? Tied to that, we're going to exit down the line. You know, we're not going to do this for it. You know, when we're looking at that exit, can you add value to who we know who may be interested in acquiring us, their experience, their connections?
Gotcha. So from a mindset perspective, I think that there's a huge step going from working for someone else to being an entrepreneur, and then eventually doing an M&A roll-up. I don't think it's for everyone. I can just imagine that I know that it has occurred a lot of growth in terms of mindset. What type of shift have you seen yourself? What have you noticed in going for this?
You hit it on the head. It's not for everyone. Outright, there are easy days, there are exciting days, there are hard days that you spend 10, 12, 14 hours getting punched in the gut. And everything's in the mind. It is how strong are you? How quickly can you adapt to, it's just business, it's not personal. My favorite sourcing technique is cold calls. There's a 50% chance you just happen to be the poor person who called them when they're mad, and you're going to get yelled at. And it's not personal. And so the really big part of it is, how much can you stand up the next day, get up from sleep the next day, and just keep going? It is stressful some days. You know, going from the safety of a W-2, you get your benefits. You're subject to that person's working hours, that person's, in better words, dream of where they're going, to being in that entrepreneur aspect where what you do defines how many people you help, how much fun you have with it, and then how much money you make. Direct actions do generate income. With that comes a lot of stress. Healthcare is the king of one regulation changes, and for whatever reason, one part of it just won't pay for a month. It's a known king for that. So then you have that resilience to be calm when you're looking at something and go, oh shit, how am I gonna make payroll? Those options.
Too. And then you have a lot of responsibility it's a lot of people there working for you. They have families, I guess they have children, etc. So that should be a huge part of it. I think that the stress is something you're trained to, but sometimes it comes on very quickly, but it is a huge responsibility. And having one company, I think, is a bit can be a bit stressful. I can just imagine having multiple companies with a lot of employees working, do something.
When it comes to it, to hit it on the head, I have basically 112 direct dependents, and then they have their families, is how I look at it. So yeah, what you do matters, and how you do it matters. And that's just employees. That's not including clients. I think if we looked at in total, if we actually calculate, I think I probably have about 600 people that really depend on what we do, between clients, between employees, between families. And so managing stress when it comes to it, I try to tinker. I love computers. I love technology and physical hardware. I tinker on PCs. I build computers. Whether it's good for me or not, because I just like it, attempt to program. Also active, very active. I work out 5-6 days a week. I try to be out in public, getting the social needs filled. I mean, that's a big part a lot of people don't touch on, is identifying your needs. What are your needs when you're not working, to fill them so that you can be fully present in the moment, and making sure you rest. My chief operating officer summed it up well, actually, about 2 weeks ago, because we were talking on a growth metric. And he said the hard part of what we do versus the rest of the world when it comes to W-2 employees is we are able to mitigate and manage going from 0 to a stress level of 1,000 and back to 0 in an hour, and not breaking or having a mental breakdown tied to it. And that's a big part of how you manage it And of course, also understanding that it's business, it's not personal. So if you can control via practice your emotional reactions, a lot of your stress disappears too.
If someone was to get into like doing an M&A roll up, let's say in healthcare or any other industry, what would you recommend them doing? Maybe should they practice sales or go to improv or something like that? Or what would be the first step?
I would send them, go get a sales job and go to improv. Practice your speaking skills, practice to the point that you can talk to anyone. You can have those conversations, be able to just stand up, go talk to someone, and be able to be friendly, have that conversation, build that skill set, because that's the biggest thing you can do. It's relationship based in the end, whether you're a hammer closer, whether you're a finesse closer, or somewhere in between. It's how people feel comfortable with you when it comes to talking to you.
Yeah, I noticed that one thing that's been a huge game changer for me has been from going to having more of the hammer approach to now actually being very interested in the other person and their business and learning about them and then trying to coach them or actually coach them. That's been like a huge game changer for me because I came from a traditional sales background where I've been working with diagnostic selling, one calls and finance selling and key account management. But this is something else when you actually understand them on a deep level and look to their needs and wants and how I guess maybe you've developed in that also, talking to a lot of owners. How has that developed for you from the first deal to the second and now the third?
It's really grown. I, like you, started very much in the traditional sales hammer close approach. I thought that was the best way to go at the time. Having done a lot more selling, interacted with a lot more people, a lot more practice, not the best solution. That's personality driven. It depends who you are when it comes to your sales technique. I see a lot of success getting to know people, understanding that relationship, understanding who they are. When we're investigating a new opportunity, really the first meeting I have with that seller is understanding who they are, what their morals are, what their ethics are, because that defines, in the long-term goal, can we have a relationship, or are we going to clash with how we treat people, how we act with people? During that usually also highlights what keeps them up at night, what specifically they're worried about, those types of items. And so that's a big thing I focus on, is understanding the relationship-based capital. Because while they may not want to sell right now, down the road they may know someone who, because you actually talked to them, I found, like a human, treated them with respect, they may send you someone who's wanting to sell.
Yeah, it's values, right? The values. And what type of values do you want to convey, or are you looking for when you want to acquire a business, or what would not be a good match?
Definitely. I mean, first and foremost, any approach I take is everything's going to be legal, moral, and ethical. I know morals and ethics swing in the wind. That's by the person. So it is variable on that. But what I look for in opportunities is a business that focuses on its employees, on its clients, on its community. It's not chasing the almighty dollar or the almighty, it's SEK, I think, in Sweden, right?
Yeah, it is. And in Europe is, but it's I understand you. So there needs to be something more tangible there in how they built the company. And I guess that would then reflect on the value of the company, the price.
Because it ties into the fact that what you'll see is if they're chasing that almighty dollar, the second you close, they're going to disappear almost instantaneously. And that hurts because with them, some of those companies, they've had these employees 20, 25 years. You can't just disappear on someone that's worked for you for 25 years without saying bye, without making sure they know you appreciate them. And that can cause problems, not only just in healthcare, but also in trust.
Yeah, because then they get afraid that this would happen again, and it's a big part of the life. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear about. I don't think I hear so much about people talking about that in the finance industry always. It's a lot of other things many times they talk about. So I think that's a very important approach that is very often overlooked. And actually it's actually tied to money also, because if the company is healthy, the investment would be more stable, right? If the
Very much
because
so.
it's possible to make a business look very attractive within 1 to 2 years and then sell it for top dollar, I guess. But this is things that you would look for in I think commercial due diligence, right? It's how do you do that? I guess do you have industry experts connected to your board, or
we do?
like, yeah.
So we leverage a multi-focused approach. We have an external accounting firm that does a financial quality of earnings just to make sure, because as you said, you can puff a business pretty easily. And now, as my financial advisor on the board says, in the end, when it comes to it, the number, you can make your financials look like you want them to. Good, bad,
Yeah.
etc. You can do that.
Puff it up like a show dog.
But the people part of it, the operational part, how you retain your records. We have a multi-phased approach when we go through. We do a physical visit. I'm not gonna buy something I haven't seen. It's amazing what you can drive up to and go, really? That's what you're running out of? You gotta be kidding me. And on the same side, you walk in that door and you can see people who are highly leveraged with the technology, the employee health record systems, the electronic visit verification systems, or you can see the polar opposite of everything's on paper. Our acquisition, everything was on paper. And so you have to convert and digitize it so that it is compliant and you're in compliance with the state, which further helps, your employees. But I mean, the big part of it, when you look at it, we touched on it lightly, is the goal is to make sure that your employees are happy with what they're doing. They're getting the support they need. Because if they're happy, they're enjoying what they do, your company will grow naturally. When people talk good about you, you're in the community, you will see that organic growth. Because
are you seeing that now already? The fruits of your labor in the organic growth.
We are. We're starting to rapidly see all that fruit come together. Where we did the digital conversion, we did some of the restructuring so that everyone was focused, had the support they needed, and now is able to go out and run. They're not, for our field staff, they're not fighting their technology. They're not fighting physical paper timesheets anymore. Not having to take that time. They're able to use the systems fully, understand how to use them. And on the flip side, it's made the office 85% more efficient because we have a good 95% reductions in errors when it comes to our billing or any combination of aspects tied to that. So it makes everyone's job easier.
I don't know how it is in the healthcare industry. Do you have a journaling system that is by state, different for every state, or is it national for all of the states, or do you share patient information, or how does it work over there?
That's a loaded question. With that, I say that because it's broad. So our sector's home health and home care. And hospice is a subsection. We're not in assisted living. We're not in the hospital. It's durable medical equipment. With the home health, home care, hospice, intellectual developmental disability section of that, mental health care, that is federally defined with a program. You use the same federal programs that are compliant across every state, all 50 of them. Medicaid, which is home care, that is at the state level. So each state has their own process, their own structure, all of these different little things that you have to touch to make sure you stay in compliance, which then, of course, rolls over to the federal level. Now, the feds have the ability to come in and tell the states they're doing it wrong and make them change everything, and the states have the ability to say, no, we're doing it right. So it is a regulatory nightmare for the format of everyone's doing everything wrong, but they're all doing it right at the same time. So you can't win.
It sounds complicated, but would you still recommend other deal makers to get into the healthcare industry? Maybe because it's very regulated, maybe the reward is bigger as a deal maker, or
it can. My recommendation from experience now is, if you want to go get into healthcare, you want to do that, go to assisted living first, which there's about 5 people that shoot me for that statement. Or something that has inventory, it has physical assets. Don't do home health because it is a cash flow business and it is 10,000 times harder to do your first deal.
Yeah,
once you do your first deal, pivot.
It should be easier to lend against than when it's real asset available. So
then pivot now, because like when I look at home health, big payoff. I mean, very heavily, and that's paying people decently. That's optimizing systems and centralizing expenses. We do very well. So there is a trade-off with the physical asset versus cash flow.
What type of financials are you looking for? Should it be at a certain revenue threshold, or EBIT or EBITDA?
Generally, what we look at is anything gross revenue wise of $1 million and up. I'll look at about anything, but anything below that $1 million gross revenue marker, what you see is people don't want to delegate. And so you do get single owner dependent businesses. You get poor office staff structures if they have them, or it's truly relationship based to that owner, and you just can't transfer those.
How would you react if you were presented an opportunity that would be like a dinosaur in your industry, like Dinosaur, a very big company? Is that something like a platform? Is that something that would be of interest for your group? Or
definitely, I am excited to get an opportunity to look at a whale, a dinosaur, any combination of that. I'd be very excited to do it. Why we look at the range, typically what we see is 1 to 5 million gross revenue, give or take, really is our sweet spot. And that's just the nature of home health. Most companies are under 2 million a year in gross revenue, typically. So that's where sweet spot. But if I get presented, I'd be extremely excited to have the opportunity to go after a dinosaur. I think it'd be fun. There's great opportunity out there.
yeah, it's always developing to go for higher goals. I think that's the willingness to strive. It's a human natural thing to do. Like every tree, how tall do a tree grow? It grows as tall as it can, right? And I think it's a way of life, but it's also a choice. I don't think everyone chooses to be open for deals or deal making or M&A or bigger deals. So I think that's a special type of entrepreneur. And in terms of financials, what is important there for you? Is because I know that in USA, all the P&Ls are not public. They're not not public for everyone every year, like here in Sweden. Is it some specific metrics that you're looking at, or is it the debt service coverage ratio in the deal, or the DSCR, or is it something else?
It's broad when we look at it. That's so subject to the business, because there are some great businesses to acquire that when you look at their P&L, what the owners did knowingly or unknowingly is told their accountant to make it so they didn't pay as many taxes. They're still paying taxes, but they're spending money so that they're not reporting as big a taxable income. And those have great opportunity, but you don't pay as much for them. And so when we're looking at, I mean, we consider a lot of different structures. We look at 100% dollar financing. We look at management agreements with either an option or a requirement to purchase after X amount of months. We can truly get access and see if it's clean, if it's doable. I don't touch turnarounds, too much risk. I like sleeping. I don't sleep enough as it is. So I typically don't touch turnarounds. It's got to be cash flowing. But there's so many different aspects to look at it. We also, when doing, consider looking at, hey, what benefit right now, expense-wise, could we leverage post-close if we centralize these services? When you're in the state, as an example, you don't need 16 billers, you need 1 biller for that state, because you're doing the same program. So as you add deals, you could just expand. So it's not like you're adding a bunch of different billers or billing locations. You can centralize it. So we take that into consideration as well.
In terms of valuation, where do you derive that from? Is it comparable companies, or do you use an external representation in terms of, it can be accounting firm or law firm, or how do you derive the valuation of the company?
So what we do when we're building our letters of intent after we've had those conversations is really what I do is I look at their tax returns trailing through the year. I take their net income that they report to the government as to what they have truly earned. I add the owner's salary back, and we average that. And then we look anywhere from a 1.5 to a 3.5 range. After quality of earnings, where we do have our external accounting firm go through, look at the numbers, tell us red flags, orange flags, green flag opportunities, what is the actual value, what they think is the value, then we'll go through and make those adjustments to account for it, which usually handles a lot of the puffing that we talked about earlier.
It looks like you have a lot of competence in your team. You don't use outside consultants in your model, right? Or it's not
typically
needed.
not. We have engaged firms, engaged professionals on the legal and accounting side, but we don't typically use consultants.
What are the time frame for an acquisition being made, working with you?
It varies. If we go 100% seller financing, you have that management agreement with requirement to buy, we can get done in less than 30 days. If we are pulling in commercial financing or any sort of financing for that matter, 60 to 90 days, but all of that is completely subject to the sellers providing diligence material. The faster they provide us information, the faster we can move.
It's quite fast, I would say, compared to very big organizations doing M&A. They usually take a little bit more time in the due diligence. are you doing like the external representation on the legal and accounting side? Are they just doing like a simple red flag, or are they doing more in-depth analysis? Or maybe you have that already on your board, so you already have the capacity to move with speed, which would be better for the seller, right?
We have the capacity to move at speed. So the accounting firm is doing a true in-depth analysis on the financials, looking during a period, trying to find idiosyncrasies, things that don't make sense, that are puffed, any combination of that. On the legal side, yeah, we do have them do broad spectrum searches, look for outstanding items that we should be aware of, as well as do the purchasing and purchase agreement and those aspects. But a lot of what we do during diligence is very much internal, in-house. It's digging through processes, digging through their procedures, looking at, what sort of companies do they own, are there competitors, all of these items. And then that pairs with, if we're using a financial institution, their diligence as well.
Gotcha. So obviously introducing resistance and friction can be used as a negotiation tool, but I was thinking about what would defer you, what would hinder you from actually making an acquisition in a due diligence process? Well, is there something specifically that
look for a combination of things? Let's hit the big one on the head. I don't like fraud risk. If there's fraud in there, we're done instantly. We typically, if it wasn't disclosed, because I ask it pretty early on, and we find that they're in a lawsuit, they're in legal action, that'll be up to, again, risk, big risk. Even if you're doing an asset purchase, that legal aspects follow you. Those items come with it, no matter how you structure it, because you bought the company. So those are two big deal killers. Other ones include very much, we have a lot of orange flags, things where it's like we know as a group from experience, from previous deals, or from the operational side, items we can look at that once we dig in on it, if it turns into a red flag, it's worth killing, such as like how they treat their employee. Items that include employee happiness, all the way to, I just haven't updated my policies in 12 years because I didn't want to. So all kinds of stuff. We have a lot of internal experience that we look at.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting. It feels like you're not really in need of an investor or investors right now, but if you would meet, like you said, a dinosaur or whatever, I guess then investors would come into play apart from the bank, I guess. Or banks.
Potentially. Yeah. It would really depend the dinosaur and how it's structured and what we can do with the structure.
Yeah. So how is your internal raise process when you do raise equity? Or
typically debt mostly.
Is it like, are you in talks with just one group or one bank, or are you?
We have a strong relationship with multiple.
Okay. But the quality and conversations is a good leverage for you. Like it's a good connection with the debt givers.
And with that, not every bank's going to love every opportunity. We know that. It's part of other opportunities may fall out of the credit box where one bank loves it, another may hate it. So you always have multiple relationships to go, this is what we're looking at. We think this would be a good fit based on what you told us you like. Is it something you'd like? Can you do it? When can you get it done?
I guess there's some volume there, right? It's not just a handful of banks in your town. It sounds like you've been talking to more than just like one institution. And in an instance where you are to acquire a company like that, how important are the banks or the debt raise? Is there a cost of not getting the banks, or is there a runaway cost in the due diligence process, because due diligence does cost money? Or have you find ways around this, because usually it's huge amounts for due diligence, right?
So we manage it a couple different ways. One, I always start by putting a breakup fee in my letter of intent. Well, you always don't get what you want. We get it about 50% of the time, just as motivation to keep people from getting 3 weeks into diligence, saying, you know what, I don't want to, and just quitting on us.
Oh yeah, they want to sell to their second cousin or something.
Something like that. They also don't like when people start asking questions. Our due diligence gentleman told me on the second deal, right after we finished the first, getting ready to the second, he said a good quality of earnings is when everyone feels a little on edge, a little insulted. He said that's good quality of earnings because that means we actually dug in, we actually talked about it. And some people don't like that when it comes to it. It is in essence a version of conflict, whether it's friendly conflict or in this case, pushing, prying, uncomfortable conflict. And so we also look at from the position of, I want a quick no or a quick as humanly possible. Here's a red flag that's going to kill it. So there are parts we start with specifically first before we even get into some aspects of it. The normal deal killers. I mean, we hit the fraud quickly. We hit the legal aspects quickly. We hit the I made a poor decision and or may have lied items pretty quickly, just to truly, as much as humanly possible, mitigate our capital outlay when it comes to diligence. You can't always, but you do the best you can.
What happens if you don't follow through a deal? Is it dependent on the banks that you actually have like a credit line or something, or that it doesn't really affect the group per se? It's stable anyways.
Yeah, not every deal is worth going through. Actually, some of the best deals I've done are the ones I didn't do. We've gotten some of it I count luck, some of it I count truly gut understanding and knowledge for not doing things that have saved us misery. Not the end of the world, but misery. So some of the best ones, yeah. I mean, we have a lot of diligence requirements that ensure we truly have a way out if we do identify that there is a problem, an issue, something that would kill the deal. Because we also don't want to waste our time, because time is the most precious asset. Once gone, you can't buy it back.
Yeah. Time is life and time is money. So I think that's better spent in a productive way, right?
Yes, it is.
I really appreciate this talk. I enjoy following you and the process you are in. It's been a very interesting process to follow this few years. I think that the best is yet to come. It's obviously not a one-trick pony. You're on your third deal, yeah. So I wouldn't count that to luck, as you said something was luck, but I guess you meant the deals you didn't buy, I guess.
Deals I didn't buy, there was some luck of those.
Yeah, but now you're on your third, and sooner or later it will be your sixth, and then 15, etc. So it's impressive and really interesting industry.
Like I said, we're just trying to help as many people as possible, and that starts by helping a lot of people, having a lot of fun, and making a lot of money.
Yeah. I also like the users. You have what's different with you is that you have the user in mind. You say user in English, we say the client, the clientele, and the values driving the deals and the organic growth behind it. I think that's something that's needed in the healthcare, any industry, but especially I guess in the healthcare industry, because you work very close with clients.
That's where healthcare is lost right now. Everyone's focused on money, focused on. They've lost what's important, which is the client and the employee. Yeah. We see it deal over deal, time over time, month over month, that it goes off the rails.
Yeah, like my parents are getting older, like everyone is an aging generation now, and like I would rather have them be at a place maybe with a smaller roll-up firm than something that is like enormous and the little man or the little lady gets lost in a huge system. I think it's a little bit more hands-on and personal when it's a small to mid-sized roll-up, I guess. And yeah, because there's huge behemoths, I guess there are in USA also, but here in Sweden we have really big ones that are in the private healthcare, and that also comes with its challenges, I think.
It does. They forget structure follows strategy, and when your strategy, whether that's employees, whether that's clients, you'll go far. Because that drives your quality of care. I mean, we are a center of excellence in our area for care with our operating company in North Carolina. We're always driving for that. To make that, like recently had to leverage a senator to get answers from the Department of Health and Human Services. So we have a industry leading training and staffing plan for North Carolina, because it matters. Everything we do for our partners and our employees matter.
I have a last question, and that is, where do you see yourself and your firm the coming 3 to 4 years, like in terms of where are you developing, where are you growing, and what are you growing towards?
We're growing towards is become basically, I touched on center of excellence, but a center of excellence when it comes to being able to take you from the hospital into home health, through home care to the end of life with hospice, and then layering some resiliency on there with intellectual developmental disability and group homes. What we've noticed is if you can take that need and fill it in any community or any area, you can serve so many people. There's such a big difference you can make. And so that's where we're driving towards right now over the next 3 to 4 years, is growing into that continuous care center of excellence that we've talked about.
I think that's important. You you're making a big difference for the one client while you're growing in a way. And you mentioned it many times that structures follow strategy, and I think that's something to take away from this call also, to always have the right structure after the strategy. And that's a way of, I think, maybe generally, like if it's small business owners, they don't always have the time to think about those parts of a business. I don't even think many have a board of director that is fully fledged out like you have. So
very few have an advisory board. I mean, being able to, there are some things we encounter, being able to send an email, make a phone call to ask a question and get an answer because someone's experienced. It saves time, it saves pain. Here's a solution to do this. It makes it so that we can minimize my example or analogy is the below the waterline holes on the ship.
If you want to do like a shameless plug, I don't think, maybe that's not needed now, but
we're always looking for active opportunities on the Southeast Central United States. Companies who are looking for either strong partner to partner with to grow, or just looking to take that exit with someone that you trust, someone you know is going to take care of your people, and just give you that peace of mind that you've done a great job building the company. You have helped so many people rest, enjoy your retirement, enjoy what you want to do. Driving for a finer day every day.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, Henrik. It's been very educational, and I'm very so much looking forward to seeing your growth and the growth of the firm, and how you will affect the clients also in the long run.
I appreciate the invite on this. It was great to connect, really dig in a little bit and just have a conversation.
Thank you very much for your time, Henrik. Bye for now.